You are listening to Season 7 of the award-winning Christian Outdoors podcast with your host, Pete Rogers.
All right, everyone, welcome back to Christian Outdoors Podcast. I'm your host, Pete Rogers, and today we're going to do something a little different than what we normally do here on Christian Outdoors. Today we're going to talk about Christian programming specifically. We have with us Mr. John Stewart, who is the founder of the Faith Network, which was really launched in 2024. And the Faith Channel is a streaming platform that is family-friendly television with a strong Christian emphasis as well. And John is going to be here to talk about that. And with him is Mr. Corey Cannon. Corey is the visionary behind Cinemammoth Productions and partnered with Faith Channel. They just are getting ready to launch their first full feature film together called Christmas at the Cabin. I'm really excited to have these two guys here with us here on Christian Outdoors. So guys, thank you for joining us here. John, why don't you kick us off and tell us how Faith Channel came about and then how you and Corey got together to produce this feature film.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. We're glad to be on. And the road to Faith Channel was a up and down roller coaster. We did start a company called Faith Network in 2007, actually. And then out of serving church with technology, Faith Network really came into the Christmas entertainment industry from that technology bent. So kind of an outsider looking in, but it's been an awesome road and that God's had us on. Faith Channel was created in 2024. I had some investors that stood behind me, and we began creating our streaming platform, faithchannel.com. You should check it out. We have everything from movies to shows, music, preaching, teaching, Bible studies. We have some outdoor shows too. People should really check that out at faithchannel.com. From our streaming platform, my vision was always to kind of get it into the creative side of production, film and TV shows. And I expected that was going to happen probably in 2027, in 2025. So we're talking this year in March. I met Corey at a conference. I had already met Sharon Oliphant, who had access to a script that was written by Marianne Holland for Christmas at the Cabin. And we kind of met in the hallways and talked. And a producer friend of mine had also known Cinemammoth and 21.5 Films. And he's Russell Hobbs from Imperishable Media. And we just came together in this hallway and started talking about this project of Christmas at the Cabin. And so after the conference was over, I took it to my investors and I said, hey, I know we kind of discussed getting Faith Channel Productions lit up in a year or so, but I want to do it now. What do you guys think? And we went over the script and went through everything, and they green-lighted the project March of 2025. And about a month and a half later, I think we were filming up in Breckenridge, right, Corey?
Yeah.
That's pretty quick turnaround. That's a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Well, I'll go through. It's been a whirlwind because we were filming it at end of April, then wrapped in May, and went through post-production all summer. We're in theatrical as of November 14th. We will have theaters all over the United States, unlimited theatrical showing up through Christmas this year. So if you go to christmasatthecabinmovie.com, you can check out the times and everything from there. But it's been a whirlwind. But now Faith Channel the streaming platform is strong and things are going really well with that. But we've lit up Faith Channel Productions, Faith Channel Distribution, and the Faith Channel Marketing Group. So we're kind of firing the company on all cylinders right now, which is really amazing and really a testimony to the vision God laid on our heart, and things are really moving forward. So.
But that's a whirlwind. I can't imagine just everything going all at once. I bet you have not gotten much sleep at all, have you? In the last year and a half, have you, John? Yeah, I understand how that goes. So, Corey, I know nothing about movie production or any of that kind of stuff, right? I'm a podcaster. I just talk into a microphone, right? So it's pretty easy on this end. But I'm thinking you're starting in April. You got to find snow for Christmas at the Cabin. Breckenridge is pretty easy to do that late in the year. But I can't see how you must have already had all these cast and everything lined up in order to jump into it that quick. How did all that go from saying, let's do it to now getting it going?
Yeah, so it was like you said, it was around March when we got the green light. So we're like, okay, we start from scratch. We had no locations, no crew, nobody locked in except just the companies like saying, "Hey, let's do this." And so, we're like, we got to film before the snow melts, which is end of April, beginning of May. So we're like, man, we got to hurry up and get this thing going. So we just kind of all as a team went together. Me and Ryan own Cinemama, so we have a crew base already that we like to hire, and so we immediately started making some calls. Hey, who's available? Who's going to be the best for a Christmas like lively production that's going to be heartfelt. And so you got to pick the crew members that are going to showcase what film you want to show, because you don't want to have a guy who's at action shooting a Hallmark style Christmas film where it make it a little weird, but actually maybe pretty cool. So we just assembled the crew, started looking for locations. We got some locations in Breckenridge, Colorado. John found us some amazing cabins for a super discounted rate that we were able to shoot at and stay at, and it was just a whirlwind from when we said green light to when we're finished. And then once we're done, it's like post-production, usually can take up to a year or longer, but we cracking the whip on them, and they got it done in time, before the end of September, so we can get it in theatrical. So it was just one thing after another, and just God's provision opening doors for us, and just following his lead, and made it all happen.
Yeah, and that what you said there at the last is really the catalyst, if that's the right word, is that God made it happen, right? Because ordinarily, this, like you said, Corey, post-production can take a year or more, right, to get everything right. And in order for all these things to fall in place, it just shows how great God is whenever we commit ourselves to him, and he's like, make it happen. And here's your budget, and you got to find everybody to fit in that budget. And as we know, things always go over budget if you're not careful, right? And especially when you're doing things last minute. So, so tell us about the script and the movie, and why this movie is the one that you're so driven to do.
Yeah, it was just, I had everything that we would need to get it done in our timeline. It had, 5 cast members, just a few locations, and it had the heart of Christmas and just a good story that's going to honor God and just bring glory to him. And it goes through different people's struggles and forgiveness and grace, and it just had all of the elements that would make a great Christmas movie. And most of all, honor God in doing it. And so, we had an indie budget. It wasn't massive, but we were able to steward what we had, and not go over budget and still get amazing quality. And, it was just, God's provisions. He kept providing, and we kept like, oh, how do we do this? How do we get this? And just for the budget that we have, the film looks phenomenal. It looks like it should have been way, way more than what we had.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I'd like to chime in there a little bit, because I came from the technology side, so I'm kind of an outsider looking in on this. And my first time working with producers and budgets and things, and Corey and Ryan are amazing. They were able to keep this thing to the penny. But we did so much with the budget that we had. Regarding the story, I kind of, Marianne is awesome. And it was so great to make her story come to life. She wrote Christmas at the Cabin, and she also was our lead actress as well. So she and Michelle is kind of she's going through some work issues and a bit strung out before Christmas, and has these heightened expectations that this trip to the cabin for Christmas is just going to be the ultimate and amazing Christmas. And, she loves Christmas so much that she expects perfection. And I think I kind of, I've seen our family dynamics during Christmas and can kind of relate myself. And I think a lot of the audience will too, that during Christmas or these holidays, we think that everything has to go perfect, and we have all these preconceived notions on how it's going to go, and it never goes that way. And
never does. Never.
With everything going wrong, and an unexpected guest in the cabin, played by Stacy Sheffield. It's a real fun story, but it really kind of heightens that all those things don't matter. Christmas really isn't about having the tree perfect and the perfect guests and the meal perfect and everything coming together. It's really about who you're with, your friends, your family, and also really the birth of our Savior. So that's what this movie encompasses. And I think, like Corey said, it is God honoring. I think we did an awesome job of bringing Marianne's story to life. So,
I've only seen the trailer, so I haven't seen the whole movie yet. And the trailer is very intriguing. It really is. It makes you want to watch more. So good job on the trailer as far as that goes. But having only 5 cast members had to make it a lot easier too. I mean, it's just these 5 people that are interacting and doing their thing. And you mentioned, John, about everybody wants perfection at Christmas. But we know as we get older and our kids get older and our family dynamics start to explode. You got kids that are married who now they have in-laws and they got kids, and it's like, when can we do anything? It can be very frustrating when it's supposed to be celebratory. Right. And so tell us how, Corey, how the movie, without giving away too much, right? But tell us how the movie makes that transition from being a frustrating thing to a celebration of people and of Christ.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to do it without giving it away. You have to watch it, but let me see. So like John said, Michelle, she's the character that's overworked and that wants everything to be perfect. Let's go to this cabin, just us. It's just supposed to be me, which I play Michelle's wife, Josh, and then Michelle's sister, Poppy. Huh?
You play Michelle's husband. You said wife.
Oh yeah, that's what I meant.
I was a little confused there for a second.
Yeah.
I was like,
Michelle is my wife. That's what I meant.
Okay.
And then Poppy, which is Michelle's sister. So us 3 are supposed to go up to this cabin for a nice Christmas retreat. Just going to be us. And then all of a sudden we have a special guest that's there, which turns out, he's my best friend from college. And so that dynamic kind of ensues of like, oh, who's this guy? I don't know, and because Josh's character is kind of the anchor. He had a past before and then got saved and now he's on the straight path, following the Lord. And Guy, which is my best friend from college, who's at the cabin, he still doesn't know Josh as the saved Josh. And so that's how a lot of dynamic happens. It's like bringing up the past and like Guy is like, what's different about you? So Guy starts getting a little transformation from seeing how Josh is and how God's changed his life. It's kind of how it went.
That sounds, I'm excited to see it myself. So with that, I think you said earlier, John, that it's going to be in theaters when?
Yeah, so we actually had our red carpet premiere last Saturday, which was the 15th of November. A handful of theaters started showing it on November 14th and are still showing it now. We are limited theatrical, so indie films are a little bit tough. Christmas is a hard time in the theater, so we've secured quite a few, probably around almost 60 theaters right now are secured. Okay. We're doing a little bit interesting compared to some other theatrical launches. Our opening day was November 14th, but we have theaters booked through December 28th. So it's going to be off and on, and we are continuing to book now. So we're expecting to add some special events and also theatrical bookings that will happen between now and Christmas. So watching Christmas at thecabinmovie.com, and you can check out the show times. And as we add new theaters, check those out too. So.
All right. So it'll only be seen in theaters, will not be on the Faith channel. No, it's going to be in theaters, correct?
Yeah. So our purpose with this film is not necessarily to grow Faith channel and put it in there right away. We are going to get this out to the world. So come December, you will be able to buy and rent on select sites like Prime and iTunes as well as other platforms. So before Christmas, you can purchase this film and watch it with your family at your home. We hope that if you see it in theaters near you, that you go help support indie Christian indie filmmaking is a big deal, and we're hoping people get out of the house and support this film in any way they can. But as it does light up in Prime, we hope that you as well will buy, rent, and do what you can to support the film there. Right. We hope you love it. And then there's also some subscription channels and things. We'll be picking it up this year. And then for next year, we plan to be everywhere. So, okay. Keep an eye on it. Remember the name Christmas at the Cabin.
And that's a good thing about a movie. It just lives.
Yeah. And Christmas too come back every year, and we hope to make this kind of one of the regular classics as families will enjoy. So.
Well, you mentioned something that again, since I'm not familiar at all with the movie industry, and y'all keep using the phrase indie. That means independent film, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not the only one who maybe excuse me, and maybe other listeners are thinking indie. Does that come from India, or is that independent Christian film, which I didn't realize until you just made that distinction, John, that the independent Christian is its own niche when it comes to filmmaking. How big is that niche, Corey?
I mean, it's pretty tight knit. Like the Wonder Project, they started doing indie films, and Kingdom Story, they started, and just grew. And so an indie film is just lower budget films that are not backed by studios and like big Hollywood money, and so and we don't have a lot of the stipulations that the big studios will have to abide by. So we can put more Christian values in there and put the faith element in there, because some of those bigger studios are like, oh, you can't say that. You have to hire this person. You have to have, so many males, so many females, blah, blah. They have all these rules, with the woke agenda that's been going on. So with indie films, we have control, and we have, we're able to put more faith elements and things like that. So that's why it's really important to support your indie filmmakers, because those are the people who are going to put the gospel message out there for the most part.
Right.
Yeah. I'd like to piggyback on what Corey just said, just that on the distribution side, it is tough because we don't have the backing of the big theater chains and other things. We really, we have to push hard to get into the theaters that we're in. With Christmas at the Cabin, we've got kind of a unique distribution system that a guy that works for Faith Channel, Chip Rossetti, he's created a ton of indie Christian films himself, but he's kind of heading up the distribution side of what we're doing for this film. And we're really trying to revive the Main Street theater through this film as well. So we have a lot of independent theaters around the United States that have taken on this film, and we're on the marquees. It's really awesome, some of the pictures we're getting in from these theaters. But we're using this not only to support the independent filmmakers and the Christian film market, but also these independent theaters that kind of have to go against the chains as well. So it's really been kind of fun, and we're looking to use that model for other films that we do down the road. So.
Right. Right. And Corey, you made an interesting point there, because about how these bigger companies filter out what you're allowed to say, what you're not allowed to say, what you're allowed to do, not allowed to do. That's exactly how Christian Outdoors podcast came about. Yeah, I mean, it really is, because and I'm going to use this as a segue in just a second, is that being in an outdoor industry for 25 plus years, I knew everybody in the outdoor space were mostly believers, but they had no platform in which they could share it, because the television networks at the time were very strongly anti-faith, anti-showing. You had to be neutral. You couldn't show a cross on the back end, on your B-roll or on your, any of that kind of stuff. You couldn't have a Bible on the table. They couldn't talk about it. And, but I said, well, we all love the outdoors. We all love Jesus. Let's create a platform where we can talk about it. And that's really the catalyst behind that. And so here you're doing the same thing, but doing it through film instead of just through audio and my YouTube stuff that we do. And that sounds like it's being pretty well received.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because people, with all the AI generation and all the fake stuff, it's like people can tell what's true, what's genuine, and what actually comes from the heart. And that's what, indie filmmaking is. I mean, it's hard to make a film. It's hard to make something high quality and believable. But when it'll come across on the screen if you're true to the craft and true to your message. And so that's really the heart of indie filmmaking, and that's why people love it so much, is because it's real. It's not a fake AI, like, let's just make this script because it hits all of these points that we think we're supposed to do. And like the woke, we got to have this race, that race, this gender, that gender, blah blah blah. It's like, let's just make this. Here's a story, let's not alter it. This is what is in the script, and let's make it. Yeah. And so that's really the heart behind indie filmmaking.
Wow. I love that, because as a writer, I notice all the stuff that's coming out of the big companies is very poor writing, very poor stories. What I see, I'm a consumer of what you do, right? Is there's so much repetition of junk. Whether it's, and I can say this because it's my show, is whether it's the Marvel stuff. I am so tired of comic strip movies. I don't like it. I'm not a big Marvel or science fiction or any of that stuff anyway. I just don't care for that. I like a good story. It's told really well, and that's probably because I'm a writer and I like to write stories, right? But it's so hard anymore, whether it's in the big industry, to find a good story that's told well. So having said that, in the independent space, like Christmas at the Cabin, how hard is it to get those good stories to the masses?
I mean, it's definitely not easy, because that's why there's all these revamps, like Spider-Man Begins, Spider-Man whatever, blah blah blah, because it's these investors, they see, oh, it's worked before in the past, it's going to work before it again, let's just not take as much risk. Because these indie films that are just unique story, like, to the investor, it's a risk because it's not been done before, and so that's why you see all of these films being remade. It's because it's more of a sure investment, so to speak, to the investors or to the studio. And so that's another reason why it's important to support indie filmmakers, because you're going to get a lot more of these unique stories, because if they're successful with one, then they're like, okay, let's do another one and keep going. And it's difficult to find these stories that are unique and that are good. And so there's a ton of writers out there that are amazing and have amazing scripts, but to get them made, it's really difficult.
Yeah. And that's where Faith Channel comes in, right, John?
Well, yeah. I think as a team with Cinemammoth too, we hope to work together in the future on a lot of projects, but I have my eyes on a couple of things we already want to work on, and we have another series that we're working on with the Cinemammoth guys too, a Christian comedy series. So Corey's right. The stories are hard to come by, but I think that there's been a little lag in the Christian media market. There's been some voids that have been created by some other studios and things that have happened that have kept some of these stories from being told. And in my travels and the people that I'm meeting, there's a lot of great writers out there that have stories to tell. There's a lot of great producers that have told great stories in the past that aren't doing the work right now. And that's a real, in my heart, is to help revitalize that. And I think that one of the biggest parts is the funding of these indie films has been tough. There are risks involved. And if we can build a system that mitigates those risks and gets them out there through distribution, and the money comes back to these films, that's really our heart at Faith Channel. I think that we can get this kind of creative ball rolling again and get these producers and these actors and these writers that really have a heart for Christian content. We can get them working and pushing forward and really start getting the market full of some much better stories and real compelling films and TV shows moving forward. So,
well, yeah, that makes perfect sense, because money drives everything, right?
Yes,
let's just be real. Money drives everything, right? And so you got to have the money to pay the crew, to pay the actors, to do the post-production, and to also distribution. Right. And it just takes a lot of money to do things. And if we're losing money doing it, then we just cannot continue to do it.
Yeah.
But what I'm interested in, and I think our audience will be interested in as well, and this will go to both of you. I think I'll hit John first with this one. That way Corey can prepare. You're welcome, Corey. You owe me a Coke on that, a Coca-Cola on that one. Is what was it in your personal journey, John, that said, I want to focus on Christian content, that I feel God calling me to go out on this very thin limb and say, I want to dedicate my life to making Christian content or to further the kingdom through this platform? What was it that said, this is what I want to do?
I'm going to try and be very succinct. I don't know how much time we have, but this is big.
Go ahead.
Okay. It's a big, it's a God story because basically I was in the military. I was in the U.S. Air Force, and I got out, and I didn't really know what to do with my life. But the web was just starting. That was like 92, 93. And I got into the web, but I wasn't saved yet. I wasn't a Christian. I was just doing my thing. I had a buddy that died really young, and I kind of just denounced all belief in religion and everything. And I got married. I had a couple kids, and my wife wanted to raise the kids in the church. And I decided that I wasn't just going to be sitting in my underwear watching football on Sunday mornings. I'd go with them, but I'm not going to learn anything. And it rocked my world. The church we attended, and within 7 weeks, I'm a tithing, born again, Jesus believing, dedicated Christian. And it really changed everything about my life. I was in Southern California at that time, working in the web in its infancy. And I started to get pursued by a guy in Seattle to kind of move out there and move my family. And I asked my new pastor, I'm like, okay, how do you know it's of God? How do you know that these life decisions you make are what God really wants you to do? Because I was kind of tied. Do I leave? Do I uproot? What do we do? He said, commit it to prayer. I committed it to prayer. And I remember the off ramp I was on in Southern California when I heard it. And God put a vision on my heart to use the skills he gave me in the web. And he said, I've given you these skills. I want you to use them for the kingdom. And the word I heard was use the web to reach the world for Christ. And I immediately told my wife, and we uprooted the family and we moved to Seattle for that job, because that vision that God put on my heart was big enough. And I thought, wow, I want to jump in. So I did. And we moved to Seattle, and I was running a marketing communication firm's interactive division that they never had before. I started it, and I hired the people. And in that, I was meeting a lot of business people, and the web was just getting ready to take off in Seattle. And I had helped incubate a lot of small web companies. They were making investments and making money. And I decided to jump ship and form my own company up in Seattle with a partner of mine that had a really good idea. And we raised $8 million in the heyday of the web. I built a company, 85 people large. And but we were doing retail kind of software in the web. And I wasn't doing anything for Christ at this point. I was helping people shop, not reach Jesus. But we were on this big roller coaster ride in that company because the funding came in, and we hired 85 people, and we started really kicking it up. And then the .bomb hit that just crashed the internet, and all the companies started going out of business. And our investors pulled out every penny from the bank account and said, John, you have the ownership now, you have the IP, but we're taking all the cash, and you need to lay off 77 people. And that was one of the toughest things I've ever had to do in my life. And to anybody watching, it might have been those people, I'm sorry, but it was a necessary thing, and the economics made us do that. But we ended up growing back by cash flow. And by the end of it, I had 2 meetings, one with Google and one with Tribune Corporation out of Chicago. And Tribune jumped and bought us out for the pre-.bomb prices. It was amazing. And from that point, I was kind of looking back going, okay, I see the road God had me on, and all the experience he was putting on my, really giving me, and the ability to persevere through hard times because of the .bomb and all this walk that I had done the past years. And I saw his preparation in my life. So after a bit, I launched Faith Network, which you mentioned at the beginning. And that was 2007, where Faith Network was really going to be a service provider to church. Because when I look at the vision God put in my heart that said, reach the world for Christ through the web, I'm thinking, okay, I can serve churches and I can accomplish that mission that God put on me. And so I wrote software, and we wrote web platforms and app platforms, and then we wrote OTT platforms. OTT is like your this internet television that started with Netflix, and you've got Prime and all these that are all OTT platforms. And I wrote an OTT platform for church, and that's when it started really kind of leaning towards the media side instead of the service industry. And I look back, and the path that God had put us on with Faith Channel is amazing. And Faith Channel grew out of that kind of that service side. So we're used to service. We know how to do that. And really that's our heart, is to serve God. And then to have it really start growing into the media world was shocking to me, because I've talked to a lot of people, and maybe Corey's one of these guys too, that since they were young, they've always wanted to make films and tell stories. And that's never been on my heart. I was a tech guy. I was a computer programmer. And now doing films and TV, it's awesome. And we're having so much fun. But to see this path God had us on, and I tell the story about Faith Network that it seems like it was easy, but it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And when you follow God, things come against you, and the roller coaster ride of Faith Network to Faith Channel was met with people ripping me off, people lying, problems, even just personal things I had to walk through because I wasn't rooted strong enough in God to overcome when the devil comes against you. And so this road has been a roller coaster, but God had prepared me through the .bomb and everything else through that other company to know, okay, don't quit, persevere. The vision God put in your heart is big enough that he's not going to let you fail. If you change things in your life and you grow and you do things right, then it's true. His promise came true. And through Faith Channel, we're doing some amazing things now that I never expected. And I think it's just proof positive. You follow God and you just take that next step he's telling you to do. And sooner or later, you're going to come out the other side and look back and go, wow, look what he's done. And that's really the story of Faith Channel. So,
wow. Oh, what a great story, John. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And it, it goes to being obedient.
Yes.
Right. Which is hard.
Yeah.
It's easy to sit here and say all you got to do is be obedient, but it's hard when you're trying to live it every single day. And as you said, you have all these forces, spiritual and physical, other people, entities, companies that are just bankers people want to get paid, all these things coming against you, and you're still trying to just continue to plow ahead. So that's a great story. Thank you for sharing that.
This portion of Christian Outdoors Podcast is brought to you by Citrus Safe Grill Cleaners. Citrus Safe Cleaners from the field to the grill. There's a connection between America's hunters and a safe meal they can share with their family and friends. All the time and energy we spend in the field should not be ruined by a dirty or unsafe grill. Citrus Safe Cleaners, which is available at leading retailers nationwide and Amazon, they developed a cleaner that cleans your grill and avoids the dangers of wire grill brushes. Whether it's baked on or fresh, just a few sprays of Citrus Safe Cleaners and the grime is gone. Citrus Safe is made in the USA by Bryson Industrial Products, the makers of Shield Hunt scent control products and other national chemical brands. To find out more and to get some of the outstanding grill accessories, go to citrussafe.com.
I think it's important for a listener to say or to hear from you what it is in me and Corey that said, I want to commit my life to making good Christian content visually through film.
Yeah. So, for me, I have a really strong Christian family and was born and raised in that environment. And so, I've always been a Christian, and I can remember I was like 8, I think, and my great aunt baptized me in a cattle trough on a farm in Springtown, Texas, where an area where I grew up. And she said, I have this vision from God that you're going to use your body to glorify him. She didn't know what it was. And now being an actor, I can see what that came to fruition. And so, it was, I've always had something in me to just I would always make forts out in play make believe, like I was a king fighting dragons and stuff out in the forest, and just always had that spirit of creativity and just just creating something visually. And so me and my good friends would have the old tape recorders, and we would just make videos, back in the day. But it was when I graduated in 2007, a year after that, my mom found this ad in the paper. It was for United Stunt Academy, and she knew I liked doing all that crazy stuff. So she was like, "Hey, you should do this stunt school." Like, whose mom is going to tell them to go get set on fire and jump out of a building?
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah, but she hears from the Lord, and so it, and you'll get to it in a minute, but it all just made sense. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. That sounds awesome. And then so I was in that course. I learned how to get set on fire, hit by cars, jump out of buildings, stunt fighting, all that crazy stuff. And then while I was in that class, I met Alfalfa from the Little Rascals. His mom was there helping out with the class, and so she runs an acting school in Weatherford. And so I took her acting class and got to know them more, network, got an agent, and started booking some things here and there. And so that was awesome. And then it just was kind of dead for a while. And being an actor, you have to deal with doing 100 auditions, maybe getting one part, and so it's a lot of rejection. And then I was like, my parents always wanted their sons. I have two other brothers. I'm the middle. Wanted all of their sons to go to college because nobody in the family has. And so I honored them, went to college. I was working full time. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, 10 hours a day, working full time, going to school Tuesday, Thursday, full time, and just had one day of rest on Sunday for 4 years. And so once I graduated, I got a good job in the oil field. I was, making good money there, and I just felt the Lord was telling me to invest. And I had to, build a house is what he said. I said, okay, I know some people that are home builders and that. So I started a home building company while I was working full time. I just took a risk and, talked to a lot of local builders, and my parents had built a few houses. And so I just was like, yep, found a lot, bought it, built a house on it, sold it, made good money. And then I was like, okay, I'll do it again. So I bought 2 more lots. And then in the middle of my second house, I got laid off from the oil field company I was working for. And so it was pretty devastating for about 6 months because I was always used to getting that solid paycheck. And then so now I had to trust the Lord is going to provide. But that turned out to be the biggest blessing because that allowed me the freedom to have a flexible schedule to get back into the industry. And so that's really what I can look back and see. That's what the Lord had aligned this whole time. And also so being a home builder is just like a producer. So I never thought I was going to be an actor, be a producer, be a home builder, do real estate investing, any of that when I was young. But so a home builder, you have a blueprint, you have a budget, you have your crew to make the end product, which is the house. And a producer, you have the same thing. You have the script, you have the budget, you have your crew that's going to make the end product, which is the film. So it's like you could see those parallels. Like the Lord developed my skills as a home builder to make successful houses and make revenue off houses, and the same thing applies to a film. And so people management, budget management, staying on budget. Things happen in the film, like, oh, we just lost the location. Same, things like that could happen in a home building. Oh, so and so popped the line. What do we do? Like, okay, let's fix this. Okay. And film industry. Okay, let's adjust this. So, I could look back and just see the Lord's hand and everything. And then, so I got back into the film industry, started acting again, started dabbling in a little producing here and there. And so I met my business partner, Ryan Johnson, in an acting class in 2017. And so we had the same mindset, like, we're not going to wait for opportunities to come to us. We're going to make the opportunities. And so we started making short films that we can also act in and produce. And so we did that for until 2020. We actually made our very first feature film. A little bit after COVID. Who starts a business in COVID? I don't know, but we did. And so we self-funded our first feature film with a producer named Nick Schroeder and Sharon Oliphant, who's also a producer on Christmas at the Cabin. So we all four funded our first feature film called Shadow Creek. I got to star in it, and we, from then it was just like, that was the calling card. If you make your first feature film, it's like people will take you serious and like, oh, these are actual producers that are doing stuff that can make full feature films. And then from there, it was just one thing after another. I got hired to line produce a Christmas film. It's called Bringing Back Christmas, and it was like a pretty substantial from going from this to now. It had a really big budget, and so I'm in charge of the whole budget. And I was like, I don't know how I went from this small indie film that was self-funded to now this massive thing. But it was just, like I said, God's just opening doors here and there. And yeah, just never turn back, still have real estate, still doing houses, still passive income over there, but I'm more focused on now just the film industry. Right. And because that, I feel like that is going to leave a legacy, because these, like you said earlier, these films are forever, they last forever. And so, and I think this is how we're going to change the generation, is through media, because everybody has this, they have a phone. This is, you access media through, your personal device. And so, the kids are always on it, this and that. So why are we not, as Christians, putting God honoring content out for everyone to see, that's going to change lives, change people for good? And, I mean, even if it's like, because we do other films too, we don't just do faith-based films, but every film that we do has to have a message, has to have something that's going to leave people asking questions, going to bring them closer to God. It may not be labeled a faith-based film, but it's going to have a God-honoring message in it. And that's what I think that's why we're a little bit different. We're not going to make just a bunch of faith-based content. We're going to make content that everybody can enjoy, but they're going to have some sort of Christian values into the film. So
right. So some of it is very obvious. I can't think of the word now. And other messages may be a little subterranean. They're there, but you just, and if you are a believer, you're probably going to notice it more. Excuse me. Both of you said something that I think is I want to highlight for a listener, is that now you can see how God was preparing you for where you are now. But when you were going through it, maybe you didn't see God preparing you. I'm building houses. I'm working in the oil field. This isn't God preparing me for something else. This is where I'm supposed to be. But in reality, when you get outside of that, you say, wait a minute. All this was preparing me for where I am now. And in John's case, I'm doing all this tech, I'm building all this, writing all these software, doing all this, not realizing that God is preparing you for where you are now. And I'm a very simple thinker, is that God's playing chess while we're playing checkers.
Right.
Like, all we're thinking about is jump over, king me. And God's like, no, wait a minute. We got to get this pawn out of the way and move this rook over here. He's doing all these things behind the scenes that we can't see, because he can see our future. He controls our future. And so I think that's an important point for a listener to understand, is that you may not be where you are right now, may not be where God intends you to be in the future. Do your best where you are. Learn as much as you can. Be a good steward of what God is giving you now, but don't think that's the end result, because God's plans for us are much bigger than our plans for ourselves.
I'd like to comment on that, because the over the time and with these just roller coaster rides that I've been on, following God, I've learned, the Bible does say, I wish I knew the verse, maybe Corey is an ordained minister too, but the verse where God will illuminate your path under your feet. He doesn't say he's going to show you the future. He's not going to show you everything up front, but he's going to illuminate that path under your feet. So just keep watching that path and stay on it, and stay true to what God's got you doing. Do what's expected on the next step that God's given you. And soon enough, then soon enough, you get to the end of that path and you look back, wow, God is so good. So that's kind of my motto moving forward. Is that I don't look too far ahead. I don't future trip. and I look exactly where God has me now. What am I to do today?
Yeah. And that's what I tell people, he's a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. Like with a lamp, you can only see a couple steps ahead. And so that's all you need to be focused on, because if you look at what God wants you to do that way, then you're going to get scared and like, how do I even do that? And maybe not even try. And so that's why he's like, just keep your eyes down here on the path that I have you, and then you'll end up where he wants you to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And by doing that, it's very freeing to realize that I'm not supposed to be in the future. I'm supposed to be present, be fully present where I am, and focus on what is right here for me right now. Today is to do this interview with you guys and to meet two people that I never would have had another chance to meet, and who have, whose story is blessing me and people that will hear it. And for you guys, it's making this other type of content let me say this. You got to admit, one of the most difficult parts of ministry is not knowing what your work is, who it's benefiting and how it's benefiting people. It's not like a guy who goes out and cuts grass. He can try and see a nice manicured lawn. This is what my work did today. We're throwing seeds out there and not knowing that Corey's going to water a seed that John scattered, and I'm going to harvest a seed that Corey watered. We don't know all that. And that's one of the hardest parts of working in ministry, is not knowing, but we do know that God is faithful, and that God is always true, and that God is always going to honor what we do. Excuse me, guy, I'm fighting a really bad cold. And that God is going to honor what we are trying to do for him. Right. Yeah. And last thing I want to say on that is in the book of Corinthians, when he's talking about the gifts of the Spirit, one of the things that I like to focus on that is when Paul is saying God gives gifts as he chooses. We don't get to pick our gifts for the common good. You see, that gift is not for us. It's for other people. God gives us gift to bless other people. God gives gifts and this is the last verses of chapter 12, gives gifts as he chooses for the common good. And then he lists the gifts, right? Or some of the gifts. And I think it's important for us to recognize that you guys have gifts. I have gifts that are all different, very different from one another, but they're not for us. They're for him and for other people. And if we keep our focus on that these gifts God has given us is to bless other people, to draw them closer into relationship with him, it's amazing what God can do with all that.
True.
It really is. Guys, this has been a great conversation. So, but I want to ask you, as we're getting close to our time here, is Corey, what would you like to add about this movie and about what you're doing for the listener, and as to why they have to find it and go watch it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great Christmas film. It'll leave you with hope, with compassion, with purpose, with a new understanding of what grace really is. And so I just think that this is a movie for the whole family. Everyone can enjoy it. It's shot really well. It has a bunch of snow and Christmas trees, so it'll just get you in that Christmas mood as well.
Yeah. Here in South Carolina, we don't get snow.
Yeah.
Right. I'm in Texas. Well, we're both in
Texas. Okay. So y'all don't get much snow either, huh? So,
not much.
Never had a white Christmas. John, what about yourself?
Yeah, I agree with Corey. I think it's an awesome Christmas film. I really hope that the listeners understand that the kind of the indie filmmaking now, and we need support. And if you do see it in theaters near you, please go watch it, support our film. We'd love to hear from you guys what you think of it too. Visit christmasatthecabinmovie.com, find the locations near you, sign up for updates on there. Check out our trailer on YouTube, like it, share it, subscribe to, all that helps, because in indie filmmaking, we're working with budgets that aren't like Hollywood. All this seems to come easy to them. So help us out, support us, and then check out Faith Channel and Cinema Mammoth and the things that we're doing in the future. We're not going to stop here. So
Right. And I'll
Yeah.
put links to all that stuff in the show notes, right?
Awesome.
Including the trailer and faithchannel.com and Cinemammoth, as well as Christmas at the Cabin. They've all been in the show notes.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you for joining me here on Christian Outdoors Podcast. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.